terms of steeping the tea, there's certain teas that if you oversteep them, they'll turn too bitter. So like certain greens, our magnolia tea is an example of that. It's just the type of tea it is. And then other teas you can steep for a long time and it's not going to affect it as much. And those are the teas that you want like for an iced tea. And then, so it just depends on the type of tea, on how you steep it. I mean, there's like, most people say a white tea, you do it 180 degrees and you steep for 3 minutes. And then this tea you do at 160 degrees and you steep for here. But I think that, you know, there's general rules, but in reality, the rule is you steep it for about, 3 to 5 minutes and you steep it once, but it just is going to depend on the tea, honestly, more than anything else.
So we are here in Biron Teas, and we're going to learn about teas.
Yes.
And
Not a letter T, but tea.
yes, tea, as in high tea. I really don't know anything about it. Andy is here. She is the owner. Introduce yourself, say hi, and tell us about how this came about.
Well, I'm Andy Biron, and I own Biron Teas with my husband. And we started, forever ago. And when we got married, we started the tea company. It was kind of like our first co-creation together, like right before we started having kids. Like we were still liked each other. But we decided that we would do this. So I had a neighbor. I was living in this area. It's called in Oakhurst in Atlanta. And I had a neighbor, and she's going through a horrible breakup. And I told Roland, there's some homeopathic remedy, and then some herbs that can actually kind of help. And so we created our Love and Laughter tea. And it worked. And it was it's so weird because I know it's supposed to work. But then when it does work, I'm like, oh, really? It's just oh, wow, it's crazy. Makes it. Okay, so there's a tea called Darjeeling. It comes from Darjeeling, India. It's a very kind of popular tea. A lot of people have heard about it. It has a specific flavor, and this flavor is called muscatel. And so that flavor is like an umami kind of flavor. It gives some tannins a bite. And that flavor is, people like it, but it can become overpowering. So we take that and we combine it with a Biron tea, which is a green tea from the similar region. So they blend well together. They don't compete. However, and then we add a magnolia oil to that. So we have, they take the magnolia extract, they put it in oil first, and we add it to the tea. So recently, the last batch of tea that we got from Darjeeling was more muscatel than the previous batches. Because remember, it's a crop, right? So it's going to vary year to year. So we're constantly having to manipulate the blend. So now we're like, gosh, you know what? I think in the next batch, we're going to have to take down the Darjeeling, up the Biron, and then figure out what we do in balancing the oils in there to make sure that it has a consistency and doesn't have too much of that muscatel flavor. So I think it's a constant balancing act for us, meaning that, because tea's a crop, it's never going to be the same when we get it in. We're going to constantly have to kind of work on it. So yeah, so we try and taste tea all the time. You kind of have to kind of see where it leads, because I don't know where the end game is. And for me to think that I do is silly, because I'm not God. And that would totally destroy any benefit I can have now, because once I said, oh, it has to be this way, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. I mean, maybe it's not a tea farm. Maybe it's a whole wellness retreat. Maybe it's a whole this. Maybe it's even bigger. So I don't know. We can work towards that. But then if something else comes my way, I'm going to look at it. But I think that when you're an entrepreneur, if you don't think that way, you're never going to survive, because life's going to constantly throw you curveballs every single day.
Speaking about, we talked about the tins, the artwork. How did you come up with the beautiful?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So this is ages ago, but when we were first kind of coming up with the line, I told Roland, I kind of love the artwork like the more intricate, like kind of tattoo-ishy artwork. You know, like a long time ago they had the snake oil salesman, and you know, like the really cool bottles that would like I just bought that was like the coolest thing ever. And so he kind of tried to mimic that a little bit, and it didn't work out. It wasn't colorful enough, but I loved it. But I said, we need something a little more colorful. And it was almost like, you know, like those vintage, like they had like the mermaids. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. I thought was really cool, but the mermaid was too close to Starbucks, so we didn't do that. So I said, I want a fairy. And we went on this thing called, it's this old site, I don't know if it still even exists. It's called createmytattoo.com. So I said I wanted it to look like a tattoo. I wanted a tattoo artist to do it because that was the look that we wanted. So we finally found a tattoo artist who was an illustrator who could create the documents as an AI, as an Illustrator file, so it could then translate those onto the packaging. So she created a tattoo for us in an Illustrator file that we then did on the packaging.
Wow.
And that's what we did.